in 1958, I was 10 years old, and every single Friday night, I sat up in front of that old black and white television set at Grandpa's house, watching professional wrestling live from downtown San Antonio. Every time. And Grandpa, now see, his name was Detlef. D-E-D-L-O-F. How many people you know named Detlef? He's about as German as you can get. And very strict. And see, he was trying to instill in me character, honesty, character, and integrity, and politeness, and things like this. And that was part of the wrestling thing, because it was always good and evil. He says, look, you got the good wrestlers, and then you got the evil wrestlers. And so I would learn from that, and I just loved that. And one of my heroes that I was modeled after was a guy named El Gallo Diablo. He was my hero. He was from Mexico. And the dream came true. Grandpa decided to take me way off the farm on that long journey into downtown San Antonio to see El Diablo wrestle live against one of the villains. So we climb in his old 1950 Packard automobile and head on down there. And we go into this ancient old wrestle-a-thon building. It's older than dirt then, and it's all wood. And I remember there was like water kind of dripping down from the recent rains. And the smells immediately just took my young senses under assault. It was the cigar and the cigarette smoke and the popcorn and the Lone Star beer and the smell of smelly Texas farmers. It was magic. And we enter into the arena. Flies were feasting on the cement on the stale Lone Star beer. Occasionally you could see one or two lifting themselves up and wafting through the haze. But what really took my attention and captured it was that elevated ring. Wow, illuminated by tens of thousands. How do you know how many tens of thousands of light radiantly illuminating? It was so hot and raised. And Grandpa took me by the hand right on down ringside to the center of it, third row. Oh, we were close. We were close enough that you could hear the wrestlers grunt and what they were saying to themselves. They would talk to each other and things. It was right there. It was magical. It was so excitement. I wasn't sure if I could stand it if it got any more. It was just blowing my little mind. And then, without warning, the timekeeper began the clanging of that emphatic ring, ding, 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 to get the attention of the raucous and boisterous crowd. And I looked over far away, and I could see El Gallo Diablo. He was ready to begin his strut down the aisle. Oh, and the ring microphone just descended magically from heaven, right on down into the right hand of the announcer, and he had his paper in his left hand. And members here of the Sunwater Spa, it was like it was ready to begin. In this corner, hailing from Guadalajara, Mexico, at 212 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, El Gallo Diablo! Oh, he was wonderful. The handsomest man. He was the epitome of honesty, character, integrity, politeness, everything. He had this, his tights were like this coxcomb red with orange and yellow swirls, and high black shiny boots, and his hair slicked back perfectly. Oh, he was resplendent. And in the other corner, hailing from Shreveport, Louisiana, 244 pounds, Bad Boy Brown. Oh, boo! Oh, yeah. Oh, gee. He was ugly. cauliflower ears you can't imagine. He was an old guy. He was fat. He was old and saggy. He'd obviously been wrestling since I-25 was a dirt road. No telling how many times that nose had been broken. He had scar tissue piled on top of scar tissue. Now, don't get me wrong. He was old and he was fat. But he was still strong. He was still a formidable opponent because he knew every darn dirty trick in the book. He wore this kind of a raggy-looking unitard type of thing with straps on it, shoulder straps. And the first thing he did was take one strap down, take his arm out, and let it hang down over his fat belly. And then the two warriors would meet in the center. Bad Boy Brown reached out his arm as to shake hands. No, 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 El Diablo, don't do it, don't do it. It's a trick. I'd seen it before, don't do it. El Diablo didn't hear me. Being the gentleman he was, he reached out and took a hand. Well, it was just he was just feigning it. And so immediately, Bad Boy Brown took his hand and just slapped him right across, open hand slap across the face, followed by a straight hard punch to the mouth. Then a right cross right up here to the forehead. Blood began to trickle down El Gallo's face. And then it hit his chest where it was bare and sweaty and began to race down. The onslaught continued, kicking, biting, gouging, every dirty trick you can think of. The referee was trying to hold him back. It didn't do any good. He would push the referee out of the way. The crowd, myself and Grandpa and everyone else was screaming and he's like, no, come on, do something about this. No, nothing could be done. He just kept pounding and pounding. And the more we shouted, and then Bad Boy Brown started shouting back shameful, embarrassing phrases and words to the crowd. He even backed up and gestured to us with one finger behind his back, even to enrage us that much more. The 20-minute time limit didn't come into play, because shortly under 10 minutes, Bad Boy Brown had his hand lifted in triumph over the badly injured body of my hero, El Gallo Diablo. I was heartbroken. Most everyone else in the arena was too. Now, there were some that took the other side. And then down at the end of the third aisle, there was a couple of guys that had a difference of agreement. And I think alcohol had something to do with this too. But there was a disagreement going on, and they were just about to get at it. But that settled down a little bit, and then the next match began. But shortly into the second match, the brouhaha continued. Got a little extra show, no extra charge. The two guys got up and they started duking it out. And they had buddies. A couple of their friends would get up. And all of a sudden there was four men out in the middle of the cement between the aisles just going at it with verve. And so much that the two wrestlers that were in the ring stopped wrestling, stood side by side, and leaned against the top rope to watch the better show that was going on out in the audience. A sheriff deputy arrived to try to break it up, and he promptly got a fist in the mouth. That is when the plot began to thicken. Immediately, like magic, 3 other deputies arrived with their slapjacks a-slappin'. Now, if you don't know what a slapjack is, it's a very interesting weapon. It's a hard piece of leather shaped like a beaver's tail. And on the broad end, it's filled with lead. Doesn't take much of a tap on the temple to bring someone down. And slap, slap, slap. 3 men hit the cement, and they did not move. It was very easy from that point for the deputies to get things in order. All the other men in that zip code that wanted to fight all of a sudden became gentle as pussycats. Got everybody seated, pulled the 3 offenders off to the side until they could be taken away to the police department, and then the match began like nothing ever happened. Well, it was a rough night at the Wrestleathon for me. We went on home, and I was depressed for at least a week. Grandpa was concerned about me, so he pulled me to the side, and he said, "Hey, things aren't always as they seem to be at the wrestling. There are bad guys there, and they do fight, and they do get hurt. But it's not always as it seems. Sometimes things are kind of rearranged. It's kind of like a show kind of a thing." And he was trying to make me feel better. And he was getting all philosophical with me. He says, it's kind of like it's just a supreme type of entertainment. And it's akin to the passion play, of good versus evil. And somewhere wrapped up in this dance between the good and the evil lies the unanswerable answers to the secrets of the universe. Of course, I didn't know what the heck he's talking about, but I told him I felt better just so the old man would leave me alone. All right, so time passed, another hot summer out on the farm. One day the telephone rings, and it's Mama says, "Hey, it's Grandpa. He wants you to come over. He's got something he wants to show you." So, quick like a bunny rabbit, I go across the old dirt road, down the little dusty path next to the cow lot, back behind Grandpa's house where the steps go up to the back door at the kitchen. I notice that the Southwestern Bell Telephone Company's truck is there. Open up the screen door. Sure enough, there's the real big telephone man with his back to me, doing something, whatever he was doing to the wall phone. Grandpa heard the screen door slam, and he comes running in. "Butchie," that was my nickname, Butchie. He called me that. "Butchie, you know who this is? Huh? You know who this is? Huh?" And about the time that he told me who it was, the big man turned around, and he said, "Butchie, this is Bad Boy Brown." It was him. I didn't know what to think. I had all these emotions all wrapped up inside of my little belly. I was afraid. I was anxious. I didn't know what to think. And to make it even worse, this ogre was turning around and stepping toward me, coming at me. And he gets up close to me, and he reaches out his long arm, just like he had done with my hero about a year or so before. And this giant catcher's mitt of a hand envelops my little tiny hand, and he leans over and he goes, "How you doing there, Butchie? Nice to meet you, son." It's very polite. And he says, "Butchie, would you like me to do something for you? I tell you what, how about if I tear this San Antonio phone book in half for you?" There's a phone book on the kitchen table. And hey, San Antonio is a big city. And it had the yellow pages attached. It must have been at least 3 inches thick. And he picks that thing up, and he didn't do it the hard way. He did it where it was hard to tear. He grabs it with those big, massive hands and just tears it in two like it's a piece of paper. And he throws it on the kitchen table with a flourish and says, "There you go." Yeah. And he says, now, I'm gonna go out to my truck and fetch something for you. Okay? You stay right here. Oh, heck yeah, I'm gonna stay right there. Where am I gonna go? I'm darn sure not going outside, because that's where he is. He comes back, and he's got this photograph of himself. He shows me. He says, "Here you go. This is a picture of me back when I first started wrestling, back in the 1930s. And I look at this picture. Oh, he was pretty. Wow. He had hair like a movie star. Looked like Brad Pitt. Man, the body of a Greek Adonis. He was pretty. I look at that picture. I look at him. Look at that picture. Look at him. Hey, he ain't pretty no more. The years had taken their toll on that man, I tell you, on his chosen profession. Well, he continued to be very, very kind to me and very respectful. And I eventually began to not be quite as afraid. Now, apparently, that had to be his last call of the day, because it was late in the afternoon, and I don't think he had any place else to go, because he hung out after he finished working on the phone. And went outside with me. We sat on the cement steps to the back door where the swings and stuff was, and he just wanted to talk to me. And he started telling me about wrestling. And he telling me some secrets and things, and about, how they make a show and make themselves bleed. And he was telling me that, sometimes the guys there take a little piece of cut razor blade, and they'll put it on their finger, and they'll wrap adhesive tape around it, and then hit them in the head, and they'll fall down and fall on like it's hurting them, and they'll push that razor blade out and cut a little bit, and then they'll rub it back in. And when they get up, we hit them again, and here comes the blood. It's a real show. And then that's obviously where he got all those scars and stuff from, years and years of doing that. And he says, also, you take your tongue and you stick it up here in your mouth, hard up there, and you can kind of get a lot of spit and saliva going. And then, the guy comes up and slaps you against the head, and slobber flies over the top row into the audience, and it's a real show. It's great. And then he always told me about a story about this legend of Hatpin Mary, that back in those days, women started coming to the wrestling matches, and they'd still wear hats, and they had the elastic band held them on plus hat pins. Well, there's Hatpin Mary. Sometimes she'd sit on the end of the aisle. And if somebody came by that was mean and she determined that they needed a little punishment, she'd take her hat pin and shove it in their ribs, Well, anyway, I had a grand time visiting with this man. And he turned out to not be the monster that I thought he was. Beauty is, as beauty does, is a common expression in the South. And that day, I got a lucid example of that Southern idiom. And later on that afternoon, Mr. Jack Brown, professional entertainer, became my new hero. And I think the old man was pleased. Thank you.